It's 7:30 in the morning on Tuesday, October 2nd, 2023. Monday, October 2nd, 2023. And I'm moving the cows to the last cell of this fifth section. This afternoon I'll move them to the next section, and I haven't decided yet if I'm going to graze from the south to the north or start where the water is right now and just graze from the north to the south. Yeah, haven't really decided. The sun is coming up right about now. Sunrise is about 7:15 now. There's a beautiful sun. Temperature is 62, 64, something like that. Humidity is like 83, 93. It's high. There's not a lot of dew, at least not yet. I guess the air has to warm up a little bit more for the dew to come. It is damp though. It normally gets damp in the morning. So I double checked the weather report again just to make sure. Today is going to be 92, tomorrow is going to be 91. Wednesday is going to be 80 something with 1.5 inches of rain now. And Thursday we're going to get 1/2 inch of rain. Last night I got an email from the U.S. Drought Monitor saying that we're still in severe drought D2. And although we're going to stay in D2, we do expect the drought condition to get better. We do expect some weather to come through and for us to see some moisture, which is good because we need a wet October. I think a wet November is probably more important, but I'll take it when I can get it. What a beautiful morning it is. I was thinking as I was driving through the goat weed this morning that if I'm successful and the goat weed really doesn't come back, because I am successful in leaving ground cover at all times, especially when the goat weed starts to sprout, that I might miss the goat weed. Then I was like, nah, I'm not going to miss the goat weed. Maybe it'll be a story I tell my grandkids. Like one year there was a bunch of goat weed in my pasture, and like, really? I can't imagine how that's possible. Anyway, here's the sheep. There's another sheep hanging out over there, and you might see another white blob in this area. That's a dog. That's Snowball. We got Snowball from Wyoming in January, and we brought him home with 2 other of his litter. One of them died. One of them's gone. I don't know where he is. And Snowball's the one that's left. So, yeah. Nutmeg and Hindungi are penned up near the chickens. They're staying in their pen. I put some hay in the dog pen, and Nutmeg started making a bed. When I came over this morning, she was lying in the bed. So I'll probably bring some more hay over to them. I don't know how much they need, but I got plenty of hay. Let's get those flies off you, number 19. Number 19's in fantastic condition. Could be fatter, but probably not good to be much fatter. So that's just fine. The way she is right now. Hopefully she has a baby calf growing inside of her. And if my math is right, we should be seeing calves in early to mid-March, which is probably too early, earlier than I wanted, but it should be fine. The grass here, let's look at the grass. Look at this grass. That is not Bermuda grass, that is something else. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but 2 feet tall along the stalks. It's green. We got rain, I think, a Sunday ago, last Sunday, not yesterday, but a week ago. We got pretty good rain, like 3/4 of an inch or an inch. So, you know, yeah. Not much to say here. This part of the pasture, I didn't shred the goat weed last year. And part of the reason why I didn't shred this goat weed here in the southern part of the pasture was that's where the cows were when I borrowed the tractor. And I was a little bit lazy. It takes a long time to shred goat weed. I just don't have the what's the personality or demeanor, whatever you want to call it, to sit on a tractor for 12 hours a day. It really isn't something that I want to do. And tractors are cool, but it's just not something that I they're fun to play with every once in a while, but to sit on a tractor, it's just not fun. I don't know how to explain it to you. I like machines though. But to me, that's not what I want to do with my time off. But anyway, so I only shredded the goat weed in the northern part of the field, probably the northern 2/3 or 3/4. And the goat weed's just as bad there as it is here. So I don't think the shredding that I did, at least, made any difference. And I know that I probably didn't do it right. It's just supposed to shred before the seed comes on. But I believe we shred the goat weed in mid-September. I'll have to go back and find the videos where I talk about it. So, yeah. And there's parts of my pasture here, like I'm standing in one right now, where I haven't really done anything to this. It just doesn't grow goat weed. And I think it's true that the goat weed needs the direct sunlight to sprout. Here we get a lot of shade because of the trees on our property line here. And the grass does okay in shade. It's not great, but the goat weed doesn't do well at all. It needs that direct sunlight. I think also the goat weed is a warm season plant. It likes the heat and doesn't do so well in the cold. And when I look at this goat weed, it looks pretty sad to me. All the leaves are curled up, right? It doesn't look like it's having a good day. Some of the goat weed looks like it's barely holding on for life. The idea is that the grass will be so thick that the goat weed doesn't stand a chance. And grass is, when I was poking around with my lawn at my old house up in the Pacific Northwest, for some reason I took a fancy to lawns. And so I studied it and researched it. And the way you control weeds in your lawn is you have healthy grass. And the healthy grass will crowd out any weed. No weed can compete with grass, really. The reason why is the grass is just so aggressive with how it grows. The root systems it puts down just surpasses the weeds. They're better solar collectors. They spread quicker, they grow quicker, right? Grasses are kind of this weird mutant plant that's super, super fast at everything it does. Corn is a kind of grass, right? It really is. And corn has those same properties. So the weeds, the reason why you have weeds at all is because the grass is not doing well. And in lawns, we throw fertilizer on our grass. And it makes the grass look better, but it doesn't make the grass healthier, right? And so if you're fertilizing your lawn and it's a super nice, deep, dark green color, but you still have weeds, it's because your grass isn't healthy. So you gotta study what it takes to make healthy grass. One of the things that makes healthy grass is you gotta mow it. You gotta let it grow, you gotta mow it. If you leave grass alone, it will die. Grass needs to be messed with. That's why people like it for their lawns, because it's meant to be stepped on. It's meant to be cut. I don't know of any other plant that does better when you harvest it like that. right? So the other thing is you need to get the roots to go down deep. And if you keep watering every day or every other day or whatever it is that you're doing, the water's at the surface, but it's not underground. And so the recommendation in the lawn care book that I had was to do one good watering a week, if that. If you live in a climate that has rain, where the Pacific Northwest is just borderline desert, we really don't get that much rain. I know Seattle has a reputation for getting rain, but it comes in tiny little droplets that barely get the ground wet, and you only get like 12 inches a year. So the water has to get down deep. And one of the ways that you get the water down deep is you have a good root structure, but you need a good root structure. But the water needs to go deep if you want a good root structure. Well, that's not entirely true. If you let the grass grow up, it will put roots down, right? The taller it gets, the deeper the roots go. So you just let it grow, and you harvest it back. And you let it grow, and you harvest it back. And for cattle, it seems 21 days is the magic number. That's the amount of rest you should give the... These cows haven't even crossed the wire yet. They're wondering how the cows got on the other side. I got to finish reeling this up. So anyway, that's my goal, is to grow good grass. To grow good grass, you need good soil. To grow good soil, you need good grass. So both of them come together. I did see a video recently from Stony Ridge Farmer, which is a guy I respect and admire. I think he's pretty awesome. And he's definitely one of the people that influenced me to do this. You know, now obviously he has different ideas and different goals than I do. So just because I'm doing it differently doesn't mean I'm disrespecting him or anything like that. But so he got a pasture, a farm really. It's an old abandoned tobacco farm is what he said. And there was nothing growing there except weeds. And he wanted to get some grass growing, and so his thought was that he'd do it like you do a lawn, where you clear the soil and then you spread a bunch of seeds with a broadcaster. He said that didn't work. So they drilled the seed in. That's where you plant it like a ½ inch below the soil. And that worked. So they got some grass, and they put fertilizer down, they put the seed down, they got grass, they harvested the grass, and then it was all dead. So he looked at it further, and he realized that what's really important is the green manure, what we might call thatch. This dead plant material is super important to help grass grow. It protects the soil, it helps trap the water, it keeps the soil cooler on hot days and warmer on cold days. So it's kind of a catch-22. You need grass to grow grass. Once you get started, you kind of wonder what was the hard part to get grass in the first place. But really, you gotta let grass do its thing. And the nice thing about grass is it will dominate. It will defeat the weeds. You just have to give it a little bit of a head start or kick start. So that's what I think, at least. No fertilizers. The fertilizers create grass that's like an obese kid. The kid's fat. He's not healthy. That's what the fertilizer does. It makes it look like it's doing well, but it's not. And so you can get the insects coming along eating your grass because the grass isn't healthy. Fertilizer kills the soil too, and fertilizer messes with the chemical balances. What you need is the bacteria and the fungus that work the soil, that free up the nutrients for the grass. There's a symbiotic relationship between the plants and bacteria and funguses. And what's supposed to happen is the plants are supposed to lead the orchestra. They're supposed to send signals down to the underground and tell the bacteria and the fungus when it's time to grow or what type to grow. And the way they do that is they create the sugar with the photosynthesis and bring it down to the roots and push it into the soil. And so those bacteria and the fungus, they're the band. They're doing all the real work, and they're bringing up the nutrients to the roots. They're freeing it out of the soil. They're doing things that plants can't do. And there's often a process involved that involves insects and things like that too. Like a fungus will grow, an insect will eat it, the insect will die and decompose, and in decomposing, that's when the nutrient's found, right? So it's really complicated. I don't understand half of it. I just know that it's really complicated. But nature has it all figured out, and we don't have to teach nature anything. We should be learning from nature. That gets back to the nature of science, right? What science really is. Science is when you just shut up and listen. You let nature do the talking. You accept the fact for once that maybe you don't know everything, and you see what nature has to offer. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the past few years, is just putting cattle. I had pretty good grass when I came here. It was very obvious that the previous owner drilled seed, ryegrass, and fertilized, herbicide, insecticide, all the chemicals. So when I first got this field, the grass was up to my armpits. It was deep dark green. It was beautiful, beautiful grass, right? So I got some cows, probably got too many cows, put the cows on the grass, and by the time the cows really got here, the grass was already dying, was falling over, turning brown. And so what I wanted, my idea back then, was to get the cows to, eat the grass, poop it out, but especially trample it into the soil. Because when I looked down into the grass, I saw there was bare soil beneath it. And I'm like, that's not good. You need the vegetative matter. So the cows came through, they trampled, they pooped and they peed and they ate. And so I had a field of brown dead grass when summer came that first year. And the summer grass came, the Bermuda grass sprouted up, which I thought that was pretty neat. I was surprised at how quickly the grass disappeared. The soil just ate the grass. Like the layer of material between the soil and the grass is really thin. It's just like an inch deep at most. In lots of places it's bare. So that grass disappeared fairly quickly. It didn't go in the cow's mouth. There was way too much for that. So the Bermuda grass came. I started rotating grazing, which seemed to help. I just didn't know what I was doing. Mostly I was just training the cows. Remember that first couple months of rotational grazing, the cows kept crossing the wire because they didn't know. The animal's instinct when they hit a wire that's electrified is to run through it, right? So you have to train your animals not to do that. So I started rotating the cows. I didn't know what I was doing rotating. I was just moving them from place to place. At the time I only had one water source. It was all the way down there in the northeast corner of the field. We got hit with a drought. But thankfully the soil had enough water in it that first drought really didn't seem to affect me very much. The grass kept growing, so I kept moving the cows. And I was doing like a 90-day rotation or 60-day rotation. I don't know what I was doing. But the cows were getting skinny, and I bought some hay. I gave them some hay in the summer. Where I rolled out the hay, the grass did a lot better. Further testament that what the ground needs is dead grass, And that winter was pretty dry, really dry. I remember that. Come April, we got a little bit of rain. I ran out of hay. Then rotationally graze. And then the summer came. We were pretty good in the spring of 2022. Then the summer came, and it stopped raining altogether. We didn't get much rain at all that year. Summer came. It was dry. We couldn't put posts in the ground. I had a hammer. We'd go out with posts and hammers, and we nail them as hard as we could into the ground, and sometimes we couldn't get very far. And we broke a lot of posts trying to nail them into the ground. The ground was so hard, and nothing was growing. And the Bermuda grass was brown. Now, it was strange because I could swear that the brown, dead Bermuda grass was still growing. I don't know how that's possible, but I swear it did. And so July, August, super tough. I didn't have any hay. I was basically consuming the last of whatever spring grass and whatever little summer grass there was. And thankfully in August, like mid-August, we got 5 inches of rain. And so in 2022, that winter, we got plenty of rain. Soil recharged. I didn't have hay because hay was super expensive because of the drought. So I started buying feed, and so I fed them. And I tried to feed them enough to keep them alive, not to get them fat. So I was watching their condition, and they were pretty dang skinny cows. And I think commentators back then were saying, like, your cows are almost dead, you know, which was likely true. But by the time spring came around, the cows were still alive, and the grass started really growing on time because the soil had recharged. So we weren't waiting for any spring rains like we were in 2022. I remember the spring of 2022 was March. We didn't have anything growing. Everybody was dead. Everybody was a golf course. Everybody was brown in March. Normally March is wet, right? Or at least growing. So 2023 was a good spring. Then we transitioned to summer. And I think it was mid-spring I started doing the 21-day rotation. And I have not, this season I've not had any problems, you know. There were some warnings. There were some cases where I'm like, maybe I should stop rotating. I took a vacation mid-July to early August, 3 weeks. And I put the cows in the northern half for a week and a half, the southern half for a week and a half. When I got back, I moved them to the back 20 for a week. And then I started rotating them again. And this is the second rotation since I got back. So I've only been back like a month and a half now. But yeah, and it looks like the spring grass or this cool season grass is already here. This green stuff is not Bermuda grass. It's spring grass. But I do see Bermuda grass in different places, and I see other kinds of warm season grasses. So it looks like I could be grazing until mid-December, given the climate that we have here. Especially because we're still in the 90s in August, which isn't normally typical. It's not completely atypical, but it's not typically what happens, right? It's not unheard of though. And so if November turns out to be wet and warm, and the first part of December turns out to be wet and warm, we could be having gobs and gobs of grass. Now, granted, the autumn cool season grass is not nearly as good as the spring, right? So I'm not going to have grass up to my armpits. But this next spring, I fully expect something awesome to happen. And I got some hay. I plan on using the hay in the late autumn, like November, December. I'm thinking mid-December to at least March, I'll have to roll out hay for 3 months. And what I'll do is I'll choose like the poorer parts of soil, roll the hay on top of it, and I'll just keep rotationally grazing as much as I can. If I get to the point where there's literally no grass left in winter, I'll just pin them up somewhere. So that's what I'm doing. Everything's good. And this year was a dry year. This was not a good year either. 3 years of drought back to back. And this is what I got. I can't complain. There's nothing I can complain about, guys. Have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.